Well, well, well. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Morva, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning. Good morning. I gotta tell you, I was determined last night that I was going to have a good night's sleep, that I was not going to let the traumas of the things that I have been hearing each and every day upset my apple cart. And so I went off to bed. I had a good day yesterday. I chilled for a little bit because it was horrible outside. So I just, I did work inside and then, began chilling. I went to sleep around 8 o'clock, and at midnight, the alarm on my radio started going. I was like, what is that noise? Damn it. I was so mad. I was snuggled in. I felt really great. I wasn't dreaming any terrible dreams from conversations that I had been having. And the dang thing went off. So I got up, I turned it off, and then it came back on 10 minutes later. So I knew I was up for a little while. And I began talking to God. Don't know what your faith is, not knocking it, just, this is mine. So I began talking to God, and it says there's something that I need to know, need to be aware of, why I'm up at this time of the morning. And, then I checked to make sure that my children hadn't reached out to me, that everybody was okay, et cetera, et cetera. And then I thought, all right, I'll just pray. I prayed, covered my head, and went back to sleep, and, woke up again around 4:30. So sometimes we're awakened not because anything is going on, but that's that we have to get up and pray, in my estimation. So that's what I did. I got up and I prayed. And then I began thinking about my mother. This time last year, I was with my father and all the things that have been going on there. And there's some stuff I need to share with y'all, but I don't know, but I know it happens a lot in families. And so I'm just trying to think of the best way to have the conversation, if I should have it at all. But you know me, I'm pretty transparent about all the things that are going on. But then I saw something this morning that made me want to read this to all of you, because a sister on Facebook posted it. So these are not my words, but it's going to be the morning motivation. And the sister who posted it, because I'm always very careful to make sure I give credit to who this thing belongs to. Her name is Kelly Chappelle. She wrote a thing right above it, and then she posted wherever she got this thing from. So I'm going to share it with all of you. Hold on one second. Let me do this. Good morning. I see you all here. Good morning, Jean Smith. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I see you all. Thank you so much. Good morning, Colleen. I just donated like almost 100 pairs of shoes to our friend to put in a barrel to send to Jamaica. Good morning. Good morning. I see you all. Jasenia, Shaquilla, Bobby Carr, all of it. Okay. Good morning. I see you. I want to read this because I think a lot of people are going through this. So Kelly Chappelle wrote, such an impactful and true depiction of what it feels like to be included. I'm grateful that my daughter and I are in a better place than even last year. Even the beginning of this year was tough, she said. Probably the toughest I've ever experienced as a mom. Yet, I'm grateful that we talk, no holds barred. Grateful for this next level of mother-daughter-ness. Grateful that we spent the holidays together. Grateful for the relationship that I'm establishing with my bonus daughter. Good morning, Danette. With my bonus daughter, Grateful that we spent the holidays together. Um, we are all together for Thanksgiving, and it was awesome. Yet reading this hit me today. Why? I am not sure, she says, because I have access to my children and grands, but it hit me differently today. And then she posted what was below. Now, for those of you who have children on this thread and grandchildren, I want you to listen to this and tell me if you feel this way because I want to share something with you. Maybe if you're my age, almost 66 and you're reading this, you too can relate. Comment below and let me know what you think. So, woman wrote this. She says, my heart didn't break when the doctors told me my husband Frank was gone. It didn't break when I had to sell the house we lived in for 40 years because the stairs were getting too steep. No, she says, my heart broke on a Tuesday afternoon staring at a blue text bubble on an iPhone screen. My name is Margaret, and I am 76 years old, living in a quiet condo in the suburbs of Chicago. And I want to tell you about the Christmas that almost broke me, not because of a tragedy, but because of a sentence that pounds thousands of seniors across America right now. You can swing by later for dessert if you want. It wasn't said with malice. There was no screaming, just a text message from my daughter Jessica, a busy modern mom, a mom juggling a corporate job, two teenagers, and a mortgage. But those words hit me harder than the winter wind off the lake. For 30 years, Christmas at our house was a beautiful disaster. It was the Super Bowl of domestic life, wrapping paper knee deep in the living room, Frank trying to carve a turkey that was always slightly dry, kids screaming, the smell of cinnamon, and slight panic. I was a conductor of that orchestra. I was the center of the gravity. But time is a thief, she says. It steals your noise, then it steals your purpose. Frank passed away. The kids moved to different states. The grandkids grew into teenagers who communicate mostly in emojis. And suddenly, my house was spotless, quiet, dead quiet. This past year, she says, I waited for the plan. You know the feeling? Checking your phone every hour, hoping for the invite, not just an invite, but a need. I wanted to be needed. Finally, I texted Jessica. What time should I come over on the 25th? Do you need me to bring the sweet potato casserole? Three dots bubbled on the screen. Then the reply. Hey, Mom, we're actually going to keep the morning really low key. Just us and the kids in pajamas opening gifts. We're exhausted, but you can swing by later for dessert if you want. Maybe around 4? No pressure. I sat in my kitchen, the silence ringing in my ears. Low key, just us, if you want. In modern America, good morning, Marguerite. In modern America, we have become obsessed with the nuclear family. The mom, the dad, the kids, everyone else, even the people who raised you, become an accessory, an add on. I felt like an afterthought. I felt like a guest. I typed back, that sounds perfect. See you at 4. Because that's what mothers do. We don't want to be burdens. We don't want to be the needy in law. We swallow the lump in our throat and we use an exclamation point to hide the hurt. Christmas morning came. I woke up at 6 a.m. out of a habit. My body remembered the rush of putting the casserole in the oven. My hands remembered the weight of a stocking. But there was nothing to do. I made a single cup of coffee. I turned on the TV to watch the parade in New York. I saw the crowds, the families, the people holding signs saying, Hi, Mom. I sat in my pristine living room surrounded by tasteful decorations that no one would see, and I wept. I didn't cry because I was alone. I cried because I was optional. Listen to me, y'all. Around noon, I couldn't take the silence. I put on my coat and drove. I drove past the houses in my neighborhood. I saw driveways packed with cars. I saw silhouettes in windows, grandmas holding babies, dads wrestling with dogs. I realized something terrifying about aging in this country. We trade community for independence and we end up with isolation. I parked at a gas station just to hear a human voice. The cashier, a young man with piercings and a tired smile, said, Merry Christmas. I almost hugged him. Merry Christmas, I said. I'm going to see my grandkids later. I needed to say that out loud to make it real. When 4 p.m. finally arrived, I knocked on Jessica's door. It opened to a blast of heat and noise, the smell of roasting meat, the sound of football on the big screen. Grandma! The kids looked up from their iPads for a brief second before driving back into their digital worlds. Jessica hugged me, smelling like wine and expensive perfume. Mom, you made it. Grab a plate. There are leftovers on the counter. I smiled. I ate the cold turkey. I watched them laugh at inside jokes I wasn't part of. I was there, but I wasn't there. I was a spectator in the life I helped to create. On the drive home that night on the icy roads, the truth settled in my bones. It's a hard truth, one that might make you uncomfortable, but I needed to say it. Being loved, being loved is not the same as being included. Being loved is not the same as being included. My daughter loves me. I know she does. Ooh, why am I getting teary? She would manage my health care if I got sick. She would fight for me, but she forgot that I am a person who needs to belong, not just a problem to be managed or a box to be checked on a holiday schedule. The lesson for the modern family. If you are a grown child reading this, please listen. Your parents know you are busy. We know the economy is hard. We know you are tired from working 50-hour weeks. We know you just want to relax in your pajamas. But we are fading. Our world is shrinking every single day. We lose friends, we lose mobility, we lose relevance. The only thing that makes us feel tethered ooh, to this earth is you. When you say come over later, you're saying you're a part of my day, but not the priority. We don't want your fancy gifts. We don't need a perfectly hosted dinner. We want to see the messy hair in the morning. We want to help pick up the wrapping papers. We want to be part of the chaos, not a visitor to the cleanup. So please, this year, don't just fit us in. Don't schedule us between the nap time and the Netflix binge. Call us first, invite us early, make space for us at the table before the food gets cold, because one day the phone won't ring. The house will be empty, and you will realize that the greatest gift wasn't under the tree. It was the person sitting quietly on the couch, just happy to be witnessing your life. Don't wait until we are a memory to treat us like a priority. Whew. Okay, so maybe that's why God woke me up at midnight. Um, oh, and I don't know where the tears are coming from because I'm not sad. So I just want to make sure that you understand. Yes, Marguerite. Yes, that's why I wanted to read it. She says, this message is impacted for me personally on so many levels. And Carlene says, wow, so sad and powerful. I had goosebumps. So whew, it made me look at something very differently when I read this. My father. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. When my mother passed away in April of 2023, my sisters and I were like, all right, what are we going to do? We got to figure this out. And so we carefully orchestrated what we thought would be his, the next phase of his life. And every month, or so, one of us would pop in. We'd fly to go see him. We would, go to the market, cook his meals, cook some meals, season some others, so he could cook it after we were gone, and he'd, run through the meals, etc. My father kept saying, I'm lonely. I'm lonely. I know I talk to you guys all the time. I know you check in with me every day. We talk on WhatsApp. We have a good conversation. We cut quam. We do all the things. And when I read that, I realized just what my father was talking about. And I feel so badly. Because while we thought we were making him a priority, in many ways, he felt optional. We would send him pictures of the great grandchildren. When he asked for his grandchildren, there's four of them, my sons and my sister's two children. Everybody was busy. The two in Jamaica are doctors and are working on their specialty. My oldest son, has got his children. He's working his tail feathers off. Plus, when he's not working, he's doing chores, making sure the dogs get fed, all the things, right? Get them to the vet, all of that. And then they would send him a text, hi, granddad. Or they may call him, 5 times a year because they're just so busy. And I would implore upon them, just make sure you call your grandfather and talk to him. Make sure he knows, where you are, blah, 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 blah. But here comes the other part, though. I am now a grandmother. And in an effort to always feel included, and I'm being very transparent with all of you, in an effort to always feel included, I'm always showing up. You need this, you need that, you need this, you need that. And I suddenly felt an immense level of gratitude for my daughter-in-law, who will always listen. She'll call me and say, Mom, we're going to see Santa Claus, or we're going to go have dinner with Elmo and friends. We want you to come. Mom, we're doing this. And she's invited me to so many things. She's included me in so many family things, that she now has to send me invites to remind me that this is happening on this day, and that is happening on that day, and that is happening on this day. And she always says, come, I want you to be a part of all of this. Part of my worry as my husband and I, and I'm just being really transparent with all of you, part of my worry as my husband and I age is that their lives will get too busy and they really won't have time for us, right? It's a lot. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. And whenever I show up and I do anything with them or for them, she's always careful to say, thank you so, so, so much. When I walk in the house, she's always hugging me, giving me a hard hug. She follows me on Facebook. And I didn't realize it until very recently. And she says, you're constantly helping other people. Why the hell am I crying? I figured out that she was following me on Facebook when I walked into the house on Thanksgiving, and she said, so you fell down the stairs. So you fell down the stairs, Mom, what are you doing? And then she tells my son, and he looked at me, he says, did you go get checked out? Right? And so they were like, you're not, but when the weekend is over, make sure you go get yourself checked out. We know what you, and so I feel included in their family, very much so. And I said to them, Thanksgiving evening, what happens when I get older? Who's going to take care of me? And my daughter-in-law says, Paste. Paste talks about you all the time, about my grandmother. She said, your sons and I are going to make sure you're okay. She said, but other than that, Paste, she said, I can see Paste is really attached to you the way my son was attached to my mother. And my mother did everything for him when he was little. If he wanted soup at 4:00 in the morning, she would get up, and in Jamaica, you make soup from scratch. So it wasn't like opening up a can of soup. She loved him so dearly. When I say adored him, and she would tell everybody, she said, I have 4 grandchildren, but this one's my favorite. The oldest one is my favorite. And she treated him so well. And I wonder if her doing that with him was the reason why he is this way with me and my grandchildren. And there's so many people who don't have this for whatever the reason. And now I feel guilty, terrible, that, while we think we were taking time for our father and making sure he's okay, that he's probably just so like, what is he doing day after day after day after day? The same chores. He's still able to mow his lawn. He's still able to go shopping. He's learned how to cook since mommy's passed away. And he says, I need companionship. And we're like, you don't need nothing. You just need us. Right? And so now I feel like I need to have a different conversation with my father, because 60 years of being with my mother, he got cut off cold turkey. The woman who would cook for him all the time, make sure he was okay. We would show up at the house and there'd be pandemonium. My mother would look at me and go, why the hell are you so loud in my house? But then in her death, I began to realize that she loved the noise, that she loved that we would come in and everybody would ask. One person would want stew peas when they come to visit, because we would go in all at one time, my siblings and I. Several times we would just always do that. And one sister would want stew peas. I would want the fish. Another sister would want oxtails. And she would get up and make all these things. So when we showed up, everybody's favorite meal was there. And as she aged last 2 years of her life, she said, I'm not going to be with you long. When your parents and your grandparents say that to you, believe them. Believe them. And she said, before I die, I want to come to all of your houses. And the year before she died, I got on a flight. I went to go get them. I put them in first class seats. Daddy was so excited. He was like, they're serving me this and they're serving me that. Things that they were not able to do because they were too busy raising us. When mommy died, we learned that daddy had never stayed in a hotel room. He had never had. So we put him in a hotel room, in his own hotel room. Every year now, we make sure he takes a trip where we put him in, we take him to a hotel. We're trying to give him all the things that he didn't have when he was raising us, right? And we took for granted. We kept saying they were so hard as parents and they did this and they did that and they da 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 da. I want us to blame less and appreciate more. Because now that we're on the other side of this, we're starting to realize I'm a part of the sandwich generation where I have Asian parents. My husband's parents are there too, right? And I said to my husband, you've got to call them more often. Just pop in and visit them more often because we just don't know. And with Christmas around the corner, oh, Lord have mercy. With Christmas around the corner, we get so busy. Excuse me. We get so busy with our lives that we don't stop to think about those who actually gave birth to us and made sure we were okay. And then, oh, I had a conversation with Joanne Bell yesterday, and she says, I want you to recognize that the lens from which you view life is a direct result of the relationship you have with your parents. So we watch you on Facebook, you're rubbing your father's feet with, with the cocoa butter, the Duafe hair and body butter. You put him in an Uber. She said she laughed and she could not until she was crying, right? And she says, I want you to recognize that this is a valuable, beautiful thing that you have, that the way you were raised makes you see things from a different lens. And so when people are not raised by their parents, when they've grown up in all kinds of traumas, she said, you're thoughtful and you're considerate, right? Because I was taught to be that. But I considered what would have happened if I didn't have the life, if I didn't have both my parents growing up, if I didn't have a father who would sit under the cherry tree and talk about peer pressure, if my mother wasn't always there to make sure our hair was combed, taught us how to be ladies. We make assumptions that because our lives was this way, that everybody's life is that way. Right? We don't talk about the children who were raised by their grandparents. We don't talk about, we just look at people and say, why are you so hard? And it is why I have asked all of you over and again to do the work to healing. Life is rough. Heard a story yesterday about mothers selling their children into prostitution right here in Philadelphia. Ooh, because they're in the shadows and they need to be able to pay the rent so that they can have a home over their heads. How do you judge? How do you judge? We're so conditioned to have an opinion about everybody's lives, and we never ever stop to think about what could have possibly been going on. And it's easy to see from a lens of privileges. It's easy to make the decisions. It's easy to tell people blah, 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 blah. It's easy to talk about people being drug addicted. So easy. Oh, how could they? Oh my God, they used to be a drug addict and da da da. Stop it, y'all. You don't know what made that person become addicted to drugs. You just don't know. And on this side of my life, where I have not that many years left because, we can't live forever, I'm taking the examples that I got from my mother and my father. I never met any of my grandparents. My mother was the youngest, and her mother died while she was a baby. My father's mother died when he was 11 years old. They believe she was poisoned. Can't prove that. His father said he was too young and cute to take on a child, so he left my father waffling. So it was my grandmother's brother, his uncle, that took him in to make sure he was okay. And so my father did not have a great life growing up. He was grateful, but life was hard. And he made the decision to stay with my mother and to raise us to make sure we were okay. What is it that you are dealing with in your lives right now? Like Marguerite shared, she says, both my mother and my husband told me that they wouldn't be with me long. Wow. Um, I saw them as an arduous responsibility and not necessarily as people to be served as I serve outsiders. That was very transparent. Thank you for sharing that, Marguerite. Because sometimes as parents we can feel, as children we can feel like it's burdensome to take care of our parents, and as we are grandparents I'm sure our children feel like it's burdensome to try and figure out what to do about us as we age. Because I don't care how often we go to the gym, I don't care how well we eat, I don't care, the body is going to break down, period. Period. Oh, Alexandra says, thank you, mother, because there are those of us who won't feel anything when a parents transition. Unfortunately, it's the truth of life. There's a whole story behind that. Whole story behind that. Marguerite says, you needed this misty moment. Grief is a cycle of emotions. The joy tears are necessary. But there's a part of me that also feels guilty. Like I literally lit into my father and I was like, why do you need anybody else in your life? Mommy was there, da 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 da. Never thought about the crushing loneliness until I read this thing this morning. So it was my intention to have the conversation with all of you. Oh my goodness. Lord, 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 Lord. Carlene says, I'm going to share this with my siblings. It's true. It is true. It is absolutely true. And when you are an only child, what do you do? How does that feel? Can someone tell me what that's like? Because I am the oldest of four and we talk all the time, even when we disagree. Even when we disagree. Monica says, you are crying because this is the real heart of what is important in this crazy world. Releasing the crap from the last few days. Love is all that really matters. It's true. It is absolutely true. Um, Donette says, your tears come from a place of gratitude and feeling included by your family. You are weeping for those who do not feel. I am. You're weeping for those who do not feel included in their families. Whew, it's terrible, man. So much is going on. Um, I did not, this was not the intention. When I get on the air, I just let myself be myself, right? There are plenty of people covering the news and covering the facts, and that's not what this is about. You know, we talk about some things that matter, but this this show is about our lives and how we live and deal and roll and move, and what does that look like every single day, you know? Um, ooh, Lord have mercy. Um, David Alexander Shankin says, our parents need to move into our home. He says, I am an only. Yeah, yeah. Laura says, good morning, David Alexander Jenkins. Alexander says, as I think about my grandmother, I wish I had visited her more. Now that my parents are getting older, I'm committed to spending time in service to them. So when my mother was in the throes of dying, I sent a message to my sons and I said, listen, I don't know what your lives are like right now, but I don't think grandma is going to be here long. And within 2 hours, both my sons, they were on a group text and they said, Mommy, we're coming. Mommy, we're coming. We bought our plane tickets. I looked at the phone. I was like, well, Jesus be all the fences. They paid for their plane tickets. They coordinated. They met up at the same time at the airport. And I picked them up. And one was in the front seat beside me. The other one was in the back. And they were jostling back and forth, you know, getting on my nerves. But I thought, now that I think about it, is that they were just really wanting to get my mind off of whatever was going on. And I took them to breakfast and then I said, listen, I got a hotel room for you. You got to share it. But, let me know what kind of snacks you want. And the oldest one says, do I have to come out of my pocket? Do I have to pay for it? And the youngest one says, I was never opening up my wallet. So come on, mommy is paying for this. And we go into the store and I'm watching them, as they're in the aisle picking up their snacks. Some of it was liquor. I was like, oh, they're old enough. I started to smile to myself and they got all the stuff. I dropped their stuff off and took them to see their grandmother. When my mother saw them, Her whole face lit up, and she kept saying their names, and my oldest was just talking to her, and they were working. The youngest was trying to find a job. The oldest was working while they were there, and Daddy was in the middle talking a mile a minute, right? And when my mother passed away, the youngest son called me and he said, "Mommy, I'm going to tell you something." He said, "When we left the hospital and got back to our hotel room, my brother completely lost it. Complete." He said, "I don't want him to come to the funeral." He said that was devastating. Grandma is everything to him. So I didn't, and plus his wife was pregnant again. That's where repeat came from. So he came to the funeral, my youngest son, in lieu of his brother. I never put the pressure on the oldest one. I said, "Stay home." I think he was so grateful that I don't think he knew that his brother shared with me how devastated he was to see his grandmother in that condition. And when he came to the funeral, yes, yes. When he came to the funeral, he was tying my father's tie. My youngest grandson, he stood right beside my father. He made sure everybody had what they needed. And right in the middle of that moment of just watching everybody in their red, the men wearing their red ties, the women wearing their red outfits, I felt an immense sense of gratitude that my mother created a family lineage that we stayed together no matter what was going on. David talks about, the fact that we need to bring them into our homes. That was our biggest fight with my mother. We kept saying to her, "You need to come and live with one of us. You have 4 daughters. 4. One still in Jamaica, the other 3 here. We all have beautiful homes. Just pick a place where you want to stay." And she says, "Well, I'm not going to that one because blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to your other sister because she's too rough and I don't want her to rough me up." And she goes, "Where I would really come is your house." I said, "Really?" And she says, "Not because of you, but because of my son-in-law." She loved my husband. When she would come to visit, when they would come to visit, he knew he would ask me, "What does your mother like for breakfast in the mornings?" I said, "Oh, she has a cup of coffee and some crackers, blah, 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 blah." And she said she was shocked the first morning she was here. And she came downstairs for her coffee. She thought she was, coming downstairs to turn on the kettle because she asked me the night before, "Where's the kettle? Where's the this? Where's the that?" And when she came downstairs, my husband was sitting at the table with the water hot, her coffee and her condensed milk sitting right beside it, her crackers. And he winked and would say, "Good morning, Mama B." And she said she just realized how caring he was. She said, "But I can't come to live with you because you would leave him to change my diapers because you're running all over the globe." She did not want to come. So when she was sick and they say, "We got to put her in a nursing home," my mother looked at me and said, "Yeah, call your father. Tell him to come here and tell him to just let me go home. I'm not doing this." Right? Father's the same thing. It's very difficult. What do you do when your parents don't want to come and live with you? They don't. What do you do when your parents say, "I don't want to come live with you," right? For whatever the reason. It's not easy. So, we're gonna be all right. We even hired someone to come in from Jamaica to to stay with my father the 5 out of 7 days of the week, and she would cook and clean and make sure the house was, and give him come. He was like, "No, that's a stranger." She lasted maybe all of 2 weeks. He said, "It's a stranger in my house." No, so you cannot. And I mean, we put all these plans in place for him, right? um Hurricane shutters. We had hurricane shutters built on the house so he wouldn't have to climb up and, board up the house anymore. He just has to flip a switch and move the thing over and he is fine, right? Honey Sanders says, "I remember that video of shopping for the snacks." Yep. Um, Marguerite says, "This is a great show idea. The aging only child and what happens when the child becomes the parents." Absolutely. Marguerite, if you're willing to have that conversation with me, let me know. Because it's just something we need to do, right? David says, "We sent my grandmother in vacation. When she came home, we had moved." Have you ever met island parents, David? They would have been like, "What? Take me back to my house. Not doing that." I wish we could do something. Oh my God, my father would have lost his cookies if we brought him here and then moved everything out of his house. Nope, can't do that. Um Laura says, "They need to be in our homes. We need to treat them like the treasures that they are." Alexandra, I would love to talk to you Oh, Andrea says being an only child is heavy, and that is why I only live 4 blocks away, remaining close and available for my mom, who is also an only child. Oh my God! And your child is an only child, right, Andrea? If memory serves me correctly. So wow, yeah, yeah. Andrea says, but you planned. Involve him in planning for himself. Y'all gave him an employee. He said he wants companionship. Yeah, yeah. Because honestly, truthfully, Andrea, we didn't want to think about him having a companionship with anybody other than our mother. That's the truth. That's the God's honest truth. The thought of him having companionship with anyone other than our mother made me want to just throw something, right? Um, whoo, wow. Good morning, butterfly. She says good morning. Um, Wait, let me see what else. Hard out here. The comments are coming in, so I just want to make sure. David says, when my Jesus, Marguerite says, I am an only child, and my child is an only child. Jesus, this conversation was necessary. You know, when I don't have guests, I often wonder what I'm going to talk about, but I'm grateful that I follow. Donette says, I'm an only child. Thank God my children are my strong support system. Uh, she says, Alexandra says, my grandparents raised me at various times in my life, especially when I was 16, 17. Is that why you don't have a good relationship with your parents, or did I misread that? Marguerite says, I'm an only child, and my child is an only child. I think about, often stressed about where I will be when my son gets his own life. That's real talk, though. David says, when my father died, we went through this. You can understand and disapprove, but be loving. Ooh. Laura says, you guys can't fill the void if a woman girlfriend fills. That's what your dad missed, constant companionship. I'm taking it. I'm taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. Um, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. And we made daddy feel horrible. Well, let me not put that on my sisters. I made my father feel horrible. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You are not replacing. He said, I'm not trying to replace your mother. And as much as I love you all, I need companionship. And we're like, I don't care what you were saying. I don't want to hear it. Blah, 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 blah. I was not nice. When he was here a couple of weeks ago, my friend Denise, the brown crayon, he was in my living room talking to her, like bending off her ear. And she says, Andrea, come into the kitchen. So I go into the kitchen. And she's like, listen, your father misses seeing you guys all the time. He talks about how much he loves you all. And she says, I really think you're the one, you're the one he's afraid of. Like, he really wants to have companionship, but he don't know what to do because you are just not having any of it. And I was like, whatever, man. But you see how God works? I woke up at midnight. I saw that thing and I was like, all right, I need to have a different conversation, right? Um, you all are talking. This is wonderful. Yeah. Mm. Marguerite says, David, that's what I did for my mom. You ought to thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that you're having this conversation with me because I appreciate, especially when I'm so transparent, right? Um, David said, it's funny because my mother will not allow the same kind of treatment. Oh my God. My mother will not allow the same kind of treatment she forced her mother into. What did she see what I mean? Marguerite says, David, that is what I did for my mom. I packed my mom's house. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. I popped my mom's house while she was asleep and told her she was coming to Philadelphia for a visit. She lasted 2 years after that. Yeah, I can't do that. David said same. And especially so mine beneath the dignity we hold our parents. No way. Wow. Alexander says, after my grandmother passed, my grand after my grandfather passed. Oh, after my grandmother passed, my grandfather needed an aide. I called him one day and he cut the conversation short because he said the aide was giving him his best. So he was having himself a good old time, huh? That's what I'm talking about. Laura says, when you don't have guests, we get it in with the personal life stuff. Great and needed conversation. Yeah, I appreciate that. Monica says, Mommy lived with, ooh, you all are talking. Lord have mercy. Uh, Monica says, Mommy lived with hubby and I in her last years. It was wonderful and difficult all at the same time. I would not have changed anything. Yeah. Ooh, Mommy was my road dog, doing everything together. One of my sisters opted to leave her job, well-paying job in Jamaica, and she flew here and lived with our parents for 2 years. She wanted to get an idea of just what their lives were like, what they were dealing with, and she was able to get mommy out the house and do certain things. So she is grateful that she was able to have that opportunity. As a family unit, we not sacrifice, but we make decisions that will be helpful for our whole family, not just, one or two. Um, so thank you for sharing that, Monica. Laverne says my grandmother had 5 children. Her and the youngest daughter cringed to each other clinged because she wasn't married. Her and I took care of my grandma. I feel she would have lived longer if she stayed with me. Yeah. David said, let them know they are too old. Sit his ass down. You can have a dog, but no woman will be here in 100 years. I love you, David. Andrea says, trust me, I get it. My father passed when my son was small, while my mom said she'll never marry again. She has made it clear she wants to keep busy. Alexandra said, David, you chased, no, to me, she says, you chased away the casserole crew. When my mother lay dying, this woman popped up. Hi, I'm a friend of your mother and your father, blah, 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 blah. She went and sat in my mother's chair. And I brought, bread and something else. And I'm looking at her. My instincts, the hair on the back of my neck rose up, right? So I'm tending to my mother. I turned the corner and I'm watching her. And I saw her rubbing touching my father's arm. Kenroy, I'm so sorry that this is happening. And, but she's going to a better place. And I walked into the room and I said, A, you're sitting in my mother's chair. B, you're entirely too friendly. C, leave my parents' house. My father, Andrea, I said, can you tell these women that I am the impudent one? She never came to my mother's funeral. And as we were planning the funeral, I sat in the car and I said to him, my younger sister was like, oh my God, Andrea. I'm very forthright. I've just always been. I said, look, you're a nice looking man. You don't look like your age. People think you're my brother. But this is not the time. Tell them don't try it. I'm not in the mood. Let my mother's body get cold and her soul rest before they start coming around. I said, and remind them that I am the child. That's the impudent one. He got really quiet, sat in the chair like. My sister was like, Andrea, what is? I said, I just need to get a few things clear because this, and he just sat there. So my Denise is probably right. He probably is. I'm the one that he's probably most afraid would, have a discussion, a hard discussion with him. And I've had them. I've had them with him. But I need to soften up a little bit, right? Yes. Woo. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Laverne says, I often wonder for myself, having 2 sons, the youngest carries so much for this family. I don't like that. But in every family, Laverne, there's always one, that carries the burden it's never all four. It's never both of them at the same time. Um uh yeah, it's who you all are talking. I love it. Ooh, ooh, child. Uh, Laverne says, I often wonder for myself, having my 2 sons. Laura says, Dad ain't dead. He's still a man and occasionally wants to rub on someone's leg. David says, I'm not having it either. Listen, I have very strong opinions about it. Laverne says, yes, I agree. Daddy need companionship. I often said my grandma needed that. She refused. Marguerite says, your dad is not replacing your mom. He's filling a void. We are his void. What you talking about, Marguerite? Shaquilla says, I had to wait till my mother was ready to live with me. I kept offering for her to move in with us years before she did. She didn't want to leave her friends and where she lived all her life. Agreed. David says, people need to learn how to grieve and stop trying to add something to take the pain away. He needs hugs and kisses and lots of activity. Yep. David said, a friend, bye girl. Ooh, them women would see me coming, and I'm the one that looks just like him, right? Just like him. I was like, Lord, no, we're not doing that. Oh, Laura says, oh, no, that heifer didn't. Oh, yes, she didn't. I kind of put her at my mama's house, too. I know my mother was laying in that bed going, I'm dying, but praise be Black Jesus about my oldest child. We're not playing this conversation. Whoo! I'm touching my father's arm, talking about, I'm so sorry to hear. Girl, get out my house. Marguerite says she stays busy. Marguerite, I'm sorry, Viola. Marguerite says, after my dad transitioned, my mother became a cougar and got a dude 50. I love y'all. I love this conversation. The vultures were circling, yeah, because mommy had been sick for a while. So I'm sure they were circling for a while, you know. Laura says, I would have done the exact same thing. No filters at this point. Uh, Chiquilla says she still sees her mother's imprint on her daughters so many years later. She would say that they had been here before. She said they're old souls. Yep. Uh, David Alexander Jenkins said, I told the person my mother brought around that he was beneath my mother's dignity, unable to care for himself, and thusly incapable of knowing my mother. Ekaramo Shandalama glory. Yes, David. Yeah, that's our conversation with our father. What's you bringing to the table other than rubbing your leg? Ooh, the fights, the fights. Uh, Alexandra says, at Marguerite, a friend's mom is 90 and her boyfriend is in his 50s. Oh, so these seniors are out here living their best lives, huh? And here I thought, David said, I explained to my mother his present was. David, you and I are probably related. I swear to God. David says, I explained to my mother his presence was indecent and that he was not welcome in my home or in my presence. My sister and I are doing the same thing to our father. He says, I learned it was less that someone would be there, but more that in her weakness, she allowed a scrub to worm around. This is great. This is thank you all so much. I didn't know. I didn't read a news article. I didn't talk about the president. I didn't literally just talking about the holidays and reading a story to all of you and sharing my own is how we got here an hour later. Thank you all so much. And someone inboxed me right after my mother died and said, you taught me something. The way you and your sisters handled it, the way the dignity with which I'm a storyteller, right? So to work through my grief, I was writing the stories about what was happening in the moment without telling anybody my mother was dying. Like I was sharing the stories about one day I was sitting in the sunset outside, just devastated because I knew and went to go click a picture of the sun, lift my phone to click a picture of the sun, and the phone captured a picture of my devastated face. And I said, I don't even need to write because I'm just going to put this up here. And the tear was coming down my eye. And, many of you have been the helpful parts to my grief. You allow me to write the stories. You allow me to share our family in a way that feels like a diary. If you go back through my memories, you'll see us running into the house, sharing, talking, daddy going out into the backyard, digging up a sweet potato because that's what I wanted for dinner. These are all things that, we talk about. Laura says, David, that's hilarious. David said, parents forget they raised us. It's true. And we are going to give it back 1,000%. 10,000%. Alexander, no, David, you did not say scrub. David says, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. David, you are crazy as hell. I love it though. Ah, Viola says, I tried once, but it wasn't working. It's there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on out here. But I'm grateful to all of you. This is good. This is way better. Alexandra says, at David, scraping the bottom of the barrel is what my grandmother would say. Laugh out loud. And true, sometimes our senior citizens, our seasoned elderlies, make decisions that are really not the best for them because they want the companionship, not necessarily looking at the fact that that person may want to get into their retirement, may want to be a part of their bank account, may want to be on the house, and especially if they're way younger, right? So that when they pass away, they'll be able to pull and take all those things. My father said something that struck me when he was here. He said, he looked at me, he says, somebody was saying to me that I should not have told you girls all that was, here and ready and available for you when I pass away. And he said, I ran them and said, these are my children, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, somebody he's either seeing or planning to see is telling him he should not have told us. And I said, please understand that as your children, none of us are sitting around waiting for you to die. That's not what we're here for. Nobody's waiting for you to leave anything, or we're building our own legacies with our own families, et cetera, et cetera. But it sat in the back of my head, right? That thing that he said sat in the back of my head, and I was like, yeah, too much. Monica says, child, I would have walked her right out the house as soon as she tried to sit her funky butt in my mama's chair. Not. Yeah, my sisters are way more. My sisters, I like to tell my sisters, they're way more cultured than I am. They'll think it, I'll say it, right? And I'm not screaming and I'm not hollering and I'm not being obscene. I'm not doing any of those things. Kindly take yourself up with your hard old bread and the pieces of bullet that you brought and leave my mama's house. Thank you. Thank you for visiting. My father's like, Andrea. Yeah, Andrea, nothing. David says, I told her to hire a servant, go on a girls trip, but do not allow these old broke folks into your house. Whew, yes, Lord. And David says, and you will not have the access to use my father's protection of you to fund the life of a serf. Not today. Okay, so I'm grateful that I'm having this conversation because I didn't know so many people felt this way, right? Alexandra says somebody was plotting and discovered everything was already taken care of. Yeah. And I don't think my father is concerned about us, his children, as much as he wants to make sure his grandchildren are okay, right? But yeah, they want whoever this person is wants this and they want that, and they and we tell our father, be very mindful, just be very mindful, because yeah, we're not to be trifled with as his children. And so, yeah, whatever he decides to do, we will be there front and center. Oh, Marguerite says, this was this week's Loved segment. Yeah, it was necessary. And thank you all. You all have always give me the grace and the space to talk about the things that matter. But as an only child, for those of you who are only children, who are the only child and you don't have a sibling, I don't know how. I don't know how, because I have three. And we sit and we talk. I'm the oldest of the four. We sit and we talk about things, and we mommy did a great thing that we love on each other. When one of us is visiting the other, so like say I go to visit my sister, she'll make sure I have everything that I want to eat. She knows I love a certain kind of water. She'll make sure I have the water. It takes me to get my nails done, all the things. When she comes here to the Philadelphia area, she says, now, Philadelphia has the best restaurants I have ever. I want to go to a different one every single day that I am here. If I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, I want to try 3 different restaurants. And she's so happy. And Denise is with us, and she just, we're going to go to this one, and we're going to go to that one. But we're very close. And my mother was always admonishing us to stay, that no matter what is going on, we will have each other. And she was correct. She was absolutely correct. Alexandra says, one of my elders stated the men were coming around after her husband died. If they can't take care of me like he did, or better go away. Right. Absolutely. Donette says, I wonder if your dad is interested in someone but is apprehensive to discuss it with you and your sisters. He need companionship, but keep an eye on him. Oh, Donette, we got we got 8, 10, 12 sets of eyes. And the way my eyeballs work, my eyeballs are four by itself. So we got 14 set of eyes on him, right? Just to make sure that he's okay. And we're talking, but we just want to make sure that he's not in a space where he would be taken advantage of, right? Marguerite says, I informed my mom's dude that my name was on everything. So if there was any money, he was out of luck. She was just, ooh, ooh. I love y'all. I love you all so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But as the holidays approach and you're trying to figure it out. And here's the other thing. If you if you feel that the holidays are going to be difficult for you, say something to someone, um, because oftentimes we invite folks, into our homes. Thanksgiving, my son did not want to cook. He says, "Mommy, every year you're with grandma and grandpa," and I was with them every year. This year, my father came the week before Thanksgiving. He said, "I just don't want to cook, and I want to see my mother." And so I cooked and catered, because I was not. I'm at that age where I'm not cooking everything. I catered some things, cooked some things, and took all of it to his house. And we were just laying there they moved the chairs out of the way, and there are pillows on the floor, and we're just laying there with because you're not allowed to wear shoes in their house. I think he really got that from me, because no one's allowed to wear shoes in my house. And we just laid down with the children, and we were just laughing and talking. And when I asked folks what they were grateful for, two people in the house said, we would have not had anywhere to go if you did not invite us to this Thanksgiving dinner, right? So you just never know. If you want to. And one of them was a friend of my sister's who lived a short distance from my son. And so I said to him, I said, your auntie wants her friend to come and visit. He said, she's my favorite aunt. She can ask for anything, I'll give it to her. I was like, well, okay then. And so they did that, and the young lady brought a ham and cabbage, and went at the end of the night. She was the one who started cleaning up and condensing everything, compiling everything, and he was so grateful. The next morning he said, I'd never met her before in my life, but tell her I thank her, because in the next morning I was exhausted and I couldn't figure it out. And so we did that, right? um Monica says, your transparency during your grief truly helped me get through all of my emotions when my mommy passed and hubby was healing from prostate cancer all at the same time. Andrea, you will never know. Yeah. Yeah. I remember when my husband decided he wanted to share that he had prostate cancer on my show. And to this day, I'm out in the streets and I see brothers. They'll say, "Hey, Andrea, how's Mister?" No, that brother made me go get my prostate checked. That brother made me go do this. That brother could teach lessons on being married. That brother, they talk about my husband all the time. He has no presence online. Zip zero zero. Not TikTok, not Instagram, not Facebook, not nothing. And so when I introduced him to all of you, it was really to teach lessons. I have now one, two, three, maybe four women who got married to the loves of their lives, and they said it was because of Mister. Right? They were like, we kept saying, well, what will people say? They're shorter than me, blah blah blah. And we see how you and Mister work it out, and that you're fine, and you're going to be okay. And when life hits and you're feeling like all things, I never feel like I cannot make it through something, because my husband is always beside me. Child, please, it's okay. I am your husband. You're going to be fine. I got you. If we only had $2, I got you. Right. So that's the companionship. And I sometimes wonder, because we're aging, what happens when one of us passes before the other. I said, I may leave before you. And he says, well, then I'm leaving too. I said, where the hell are you going? He said, if you die before me, Andre, I'm done. I'm done. Because I have finally found and you understand how people can love each other and do it in a way where they're just like, I just, and this is rare when you really put the time and the energy into loving someone, accepting them as they are, flaws and all, not about what people think, not about what people are going to say about who you're dating or who you're married to. When you have that deep kind of love, it makes all the difference in the world. Did I always like him? Sometimes, but I adore him, right? There is a, and he will tell people, he said, not only do I love her, I like her too. So it's important, right? It's absolutely important. David says, put him on the runaround tour. He will go to your house, then you say, we do that all the time. He will go to your house, then your sister's house for 1 week apiece, 1 week. Yeah, we do that all the time. We do that all the time, David. He don't want to do that because he'll tell you if he leaves his house for too long, then the crooks are going to notice that the mail is piled up at the door. Even though he stopped the mail, the crooks are going to notice that the grass is growing up and that he's not there, and they're going to try to break into his house. Did I ever tell you all that when my father leaves the home and goes back in, he grabs a knife from the kitchen and he checks every room, checks under the bed, and that's his habit. Yo, you can't mess with old people. They're not going to change. they're never, they're never going to change who they are. Oh, Mr. Sanders is the real MVP. Mr. is the GOAT. Yeah, the brothers, especially, they're like, my God, your husband is teaching us without, without us knowing him. And then last week we had gone to grandson number one school for Grandparents' Day, and this brother grabbed me. He says, I saw a picture with you with you, and I realized that he went to the same school as my son, and da 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 da. And I walked up to your grandson's parents, and I was like, "Is that your mother-in-law?" It was so funny. And so I was telling, and so when I walked over to my daughter-in-law, and I was like, did you know that she said, yes, remember me telling you last year he come and he was so excited? She said, that's when we began to realize what you were out here doing, that you just come to the house and you just kind of sit down and talk to us. You don't have any of those conversations. She said, and it also made sense why you don't use the names of our children, Mr. Professor, because then we realize that these are people that know you online and don't really know who you are. You're very protective of us. And she said, thank you, right? It's important. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He not playing about that knife now. He just not playing about that knife in these streets. Who is calling me? Welcome to Mornings with Mova. How may I help you?
Good morning, Andrea.
Hi.
I'm laughing up a storm. I'm not crying, but I've had a moment. Yeah. But I tell you, the things that your dad does cracks me up. But you know what I did? Mm-hmm. My bedroom's in the back end of my house. The windows are low. Mm-hmm. I turned the doorknobs around so that I can lock them from the hallway and nobody can get in if they come through a window.
Wow. But my father also, let me tell you what else my father does. He puts a thing on the windows and jimmies them so you can't get in.
I have all that.
Crazy.
My garage door windows, when my husband passed away, one of the windows is on the back side. I took screws and screwed inside that it won't come up or it won't go down. So, it's just good. But when I first came here, I took a rope and tied all three doorknobs with the rope so that they would make noise. Because I tell you, I have something, but I'm not ready to use it, but I will if I have to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this morning has been wonderful.
Thank you, my darling. Thank you.
I talk about my life with some of the friends that I have. And I was just telling a lady the other day of how me being the oldest grandchild, I saw my grandmother go through so much. When you did days work, and my grandmother came home one day and the furniture was sitting on the sidewalk. Wow. Because my aunt didn't pay the rent. Wow. So I have books of stories that I could write, but I'm just not doing it. But I thank you for this morning.
Yeah, you're welcome, my darling.
I'm going to my sewing class with my little ladies that are waiting for me at 9 o'clock this morning. So
have a good, and I've got to go to the gym.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, honey. Love you.
Oh, goodness, love you too.
All right, honey. Bye-bye. Simone says, and don't ask anyone about her kids. Oh, you listen. 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 And please remember that my children are some version of me. Listen, I don't use their names. I don't talk about where they live. I don't listen. And if you happen to see them online, and they'll call me and say, "Mom, do you know such and such?" Because I'm getting these strange friend requests from people that are not my age, that I know I don't know. So back off, my children. They're not toys. They're not to be fished with. They're not to be played with. And if you think I am something, mess with them here. That's not a game I'm willing to play at all. Same thing with my husband. I tell him all the time. I told him when we first started dating, I said, I'm a public figure. Long before he even, I said, so I have to be very careful. So it took me a week before 30 days before I married him, I unveiled him on social media that was Mr. They were like, she's not dating anybody. She's just making this stuff up. Blah, 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 blah. My husband can't even pick his nose now. He walking, Mister. So be kind when you see him. Sometimes he says, I don't know who that is. But once we got married, as a couple, I would show up with him in certain places, etc., etc. So be kind to each other, love on one another. Thank you so much for Margaret. What the hell is a fish bully? I know what a machete is. What is a fish bully? I'm gonna stay on long enough just for you to tell me what that is, because I don't know what that is. We are incredibly mindful, and my husband, once he recognized, yeah. Alexandra says, "I'm a witness, y'all. That wedding speech, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, yes, yeah. Listen. Marguerite says, my child said the other day, you don't play about me, and we should not. There are children, they become adults in their own right, but you also want to make sure that people don't want to walk up and my oldest son is in the IT space, along with my daughter-in-law, so they know. Oh, Marguerite says, you knock the fish out when you catch it. What? I have never heard of such a thing. But okay, we'll make it work and do what it does. Thank you all so much. It's 7:38. I gotta go to the gym. I didn't know what I was going to talk about this morning, and just thought I would use this as a morning motivation. It turned into the entire show. The person that was supposed to come on this Wednesday is coming on next Wednesday, and I can't wait for you to meet them. Because when I meet good quality people, I want to share them with you. Love you all. Let me go let Audra torture me, and I have meetings today. So this episode of Mornings with Marva, love you all so much, is officially over. I am Andrea